Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
It's so professional.
Working with amateurs, that's what it is.
For those who don't know, I pressed the wrong button on the jingle panel. But anyway, we're here. Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Burgess and Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with technology, innovation in the London market. This week, we are going to review Insurtech Insights because we spent quite a lot of time in a smoke-filled room. I guess that's what it was like in the 70s. Is that right? The decisions were made in smoke-filled rooms.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit about claims and transformation and massive feature, new feature, retro snacks. So let's kick off, Ben. So as I mentioned, we were at Insurtech Insights. We did a bit of filming, didn't we? So we could do a bit of a review. So why don't we play the film and then we'll come back and have a chat about that. We can chat about SME and so for those that don't know, Insurtech Insights is a massive conference that took place this week at the O2 Intercontinental. And they say they had 6,000 people there. I'm not sure. They probably did over the course of time. There's a lot of people. So let us give you a taste, a little clip. It's only a couple of minutes long, but let's play this and then we'll come back and chat. So here we go. Yeah, good. We're here at Insurtech Insights. Just arrived, had the first session. Andrew Hilton, really good. Direct line group as well, really good on claims. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of people to bump into and meet, and we'll see how the day goes.
Yeah, it's massive, isn't it? Absolutely massive. It's the busiest thing I've been to in ages, since your conference.
Since my conference, yeah. We don't do big, we do quality.
Okay, Jeremy, part 2 of our little tour of Insurtech Insights. Where are we now?
So we're now in the main hall. So as you can see, it's a pretty big affair. Lots of big stands. All the industry main players, suppliers that is, are here. And just music everywhere, Ben. Just like I said, banging house music. Just what you need.
The lights go down outside, this is going to go mad, isn't it?
It is.
Crazy. These people, what are they? I thought they were supposed to be conservative insurance.
I know, no, not here, mate, not here.
What are they? God, right. Okay, so we're going to do a little tour now.
Let's do a little tour, let's have a walk around and see who we meet.
Guidewire, Wex, payments, wow,
that's it.
What's all going on?
Mind Foundry, Sprout AI.
I'm Mental. That's nice.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Beautiful stand.
Look at that.
She's like, I don't want to talk to anybody.
Stand a bar.
Yeah, and the bar's open.
That is impressive. We'll do this next year. Sponsor the bar.
Yeah, let's do the bar.
How much? There's Bart Patrick over there.
Bart.
Pink? No, it's not. It looks like it.
It just looks like Bart.
It ain't him.
Yeah.
Genesis. Away.
Looks struck.
This is what you want to do, isn't it?
This is it.
This is what you want to actually do.
Look at this fella.
Right, you just look like an idiot.
Oh, that's I love that last bit. It's very, very funny. So yeah, as you probably picked up, you could see the smoke. I mean, that was probably pumping out all day, wasn't it? Bart Patrick, yeah, where was Bart? We kept seeing
lots of people who looked like him, but we never actually saw him.
Yeah, we thought he must be stuck on a train somewhere or filling in a complaint form about.
That's why he didn't get there. The train issues again. There
Yeah.
will be a LinkedIn post soon about how he's missed out on the biggest conference of Insurtech this year with that Chiltern Railways.
But it was impressive. I mean, that is just one of the rooms. It was on 3 floors. It's quite something else as a spectacle for sure. I went to a few of the sessions. I met quite a lot of people, and we wanted to have a chat about SME insurance because we've talked a little bit about it. And I went to one of the sessions that was looking at data and technology within the SME space. And one thing that struck me, because I also ran a breakfast briefing on Tuesday where we talked about this, I think there was a lack of understanding from those technology vendors that were on the panel of how small businesses operate and actually what they want from their customer, the proposition and then the journey that goes with it. They were so focused on making everything digital. And actually what came out of the breakfast briefing was, a lot of small businesses still need to have the reassurance that they're buying the right product for that, because they're not experts in risk. Then they probably don't. I'm not. I work in the industry, but I also run a small business, so it's a completely different mindset. So I think it was quite interesting that they didn't have that kind of customer lens in the conversation. But we were talking about it before we came on air, and we really feel it's a huge potential growth area. And I think you've seen quite a lot of activity with insurers and brokers, either through commercial opportunity or through the regulator pushing for better service coming into the space. And we think there's going to be a lot of activity in the next few years.
I think historically this goes back a few years where there was an FCA thematic review of that market, and it was pretty much saying it was underserved, underinsured, all sorts of issues. And I remember looking at that thinking, it's completely missed. I mean, compared with London market, for example, just the UK regional market, and I can't massively talk for other parts of the world, but certainly in the UK, there was a real sense that none of these insurers had really bothered, or there was a real focus on these customers in the SME market. And so that as I think was the legacy. And you can probably put that down to the margins, but equally the products themselves, as you say, aren't great. And we know that from running businesses ourselves. They're still crazy out of date, badly communicated, even when sold through brokers. So the stuff that I'm seeing now, so we partner with Bieber on a big survey which started about 2 years ago, and that's ostensibly about service, but it picks up on a lot of other things inevitably, like technologization. So e-trading, I think we've mentioned before, is about 70% of brokers in the UK regions are e-trading every day. So you compare that with something, like London. This is quite a lot of, technology in play, I guess, and not too many people who are kind of acting like Luddites and ignoring that. And there are very big players who are coming into that market, as well as the established sort of big three composites. I think recently Allianz has said that they are going to make a major investment into the SME markets. Arch, I'd mentioned, as another very large player that has come into that market and is very, very serious about it. So are others, large players. So for lots of reasons other than what you and I think, these players are coming in, and they must see something there that's of potential value in the future. And I think what it largely is going to be is that this technology play will become an enabler for a better, more efficient market, and then you can innovate. And I think the potential for innovation arguably is stronger than, say, in a London market, where you're inevitably going to still have very much face-to-face dealing on complex risk. But for these less complex risks, if you like, that can be reproduced, once you get it right, and the technology will be a play in there, it could be really good. And at the moment, they've got problems with, they can't get cyber to have any penetration. So for a lot of reasons, I think there is a sense that the communications needs to build up, the marketing needs to be better of the products, the innovation needs to build. But it's kind of so bad in a way, and service isn't great either. The only way is up. So I think it's a real, I think it does have potential, and these insurers see that, and indeed, RSA have just emerged. So there's quite a lot of M&A activity now, and more rumoured. Yeah. So when you look at it all around, although it doesn't look all that promising in terms of margins, and brokers know this too, it is actually quite a big market, which is somewhat underinsured and has had to go as well through quite a lot of regulatory issues like fair value and stuff like that around, things related to the cladding issues. So I think it's being forced to modernize, forced to kind of update itself. And certainly from a lot of the brokers operating in that world, I think they are also upping their game on quality, innovation and talent, and even technology. So I would agree with you, though, that there is a problem here, and the problem with digital companies or tech companies is they simply don't have the language or the narrative to talk about what customers need. They have a product, typically.
Yeah.
And I'd say this is true right across the board. You and I had a discussion there with a very senior buyer in the market, and he said to us, didn't he, at that event, well, I don't buy the technologies, I buy the people and the teams who can work with us.
Yeah.
So it is a sort of simple but common delusion and assertion by digital people that you can digitize everything, because you can't. I mean, people use digital or technology if it works for them.
Yeah.
And also, it doesn't create competitive advantage. And that's what I heard as well at Insurtech Insights, was people saying, oh, and then when this technology is embedded, you'll have the competitive advantage, and then they'll throw, and customer service will, and you think that's not how technology works. It doesn't work anywhere, and it never has. It is an enabler, and any good piece of technology gets copied really, really quickly. And it becomes a level playing field. So in the end, it's still the people that will make the difference. And luckily, right, everybody in the broking world and the insurance world knows that, I think, largely. I just think it sounds a bit rude, but I think the digital world has to catch up in terms of what they're talking about and how they're promoting and marketing their product. They have to start to look at solutions and needs and get up on those platforms and start with the need, not with the bit of fancy widget that they've developed.
Yeah. Do you think that we will see kind of new brands emerge in the SME space that will just have a very, they will go after a specific area of insurance? So, for example, street vendor, food insurance. So, or for my business, kind of like venue hire, so, that type of thing. I feel there will as well.
There is scope for that. I mean, there's scope for anything in B2B marketing, and it's very poor generally.
Yeah,
you can do anything you like, right? But there's no doubt that actually, I mean, there's a chap who's been on the show who, out of Silicon Valley, who we had on as a guest a few years ago, and he has, now set up a business that does restaurants, smallish restaurants in the US, and he's just raised $12 million funding to do that in a very difficult time to raise funding, and he's got that vertical, that product, and so I absolutely do think that, but they're focused on the businesses themselves, not on the insurance product or the technology. They're focused on the end result, if you like. So you know, they could have a product for conference companies or a product for this or that, the other. And why haven't they done that might be a good question.
Yeah.
I think some, you know, I think some businesses like CFC, Coalition, others are in the cyberspace, the tech space. So a lot of people in those businesses kind of come out of a technology-ish background and go, right, what should we do? What could we make some money at? And they go, well, let's do something that's got a technology angle to it, and investors like that or have like that. So that's why. And that's worked, but they have had a focus like that, but really still around a sort of a problem. So cyber was a problem, for example. It's a problem for businesses potentially, and you can create a good narrative marketing-wise around why you should have that cyber product, and you can sell services alongside it, which is what Coalition in particular does, and Beazley does it as well. But I think we're talking more about, can you focus on the businesses themselves? And I think there are businesses, you know, there's Simply Business, which is a very big broking kind of quasi-digital, but with people involved business, you know. Yeah. I mean, personally, I tried to get through to them to do PI, but they just said I wasn't eligible. So I'm not sure that their system's working very well either. And then they're owned by Travelers, I think. So there are these plays, but I suspect, yes, they'll get bigger because, and maybe it's MGAs that will do this really in the end. You know, that was the other big discussion I think I've been having, not just at Insurtech Insights, but also at other dues this week. So MGAs, we were going to be talking about that, I know, in the future, but it seems to me that that's where you could get these front-end businesses doing that. Yeah,
definitely. A space to watch, I am sure. So, so Insurtech Insights, thanks for having us, and you never know,
back next year.
Yeah, might invite us back next year. Who knows? I don't know. Right, let's move on, Ben. What are we going to talk about next? Oh, I know. I've got a clip from a webinar that I ran, which was around kind of digital claims and transformation, leadership, and stuff like that. So let's watch the clip, then we'll come back and have a chat about it, because it's quite interesting, because it's kind of building on what we've just been talking about in terms of technology and how you kind of deliver that change. So let's have a look at this.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot to talk about, but I think, you know, overarchingly, it's about doing you know, more of the basics very well. There's a few things I've picked up from my experience, which I'll mention. I think it starts with leadership, like all things, but it's you know, it starts, you know, really particularly with the leadership culture. So you're going to need that top-down C-level sponsorship. But what I'm talking about here is having, you know, a healthy culture in the first place. So good levels of trust and engagement throughout the hierarchy levels. I think if you don't have that embedded already as an organization, then you're starting from a very difficult place. So if that's you, that's something you need to be thinking about. Vision, you know, the vision's got to be clear, but it's got to be very effectively commed out. And I think, you know, as good as your comms team are, this isn't just about relying on you know, the usual sort of comms SLT cascade. You know, you got mainstream media who love to feed a narrative of robots stealing jobs, for example. So we've got to start facing into these sort of things directly and have those open conversations. You know, what we see on this call as a really exciting change or opportunity looks really different to a 25-year veteran who's seen very much as an expert. They know how to navigate all the quirks, all the annoying aspects of a legacy system, and a large part of their self-worth at work hangs off that. So, you know, listen to them, bring those super experienced SMEs with you. It's not only the right thing to do, but also, you know, they can add tons of value, and find a way to, within that the communication piece, to showcase, you know, to be visible about the progress you're making. So showcase the work in progress, the wins, the ideas that you've had, you know, but also I'd encourage you, you know, share some of the failures, have some balance, use that to be authentic and to help build some trust.
Press the wrong button then, but anyway, we got through it in the end. Thanks, Stephen. That was good. I think that's a really nice clip in there, and it kind of, talks about leadership, communications, but also coming back to those communications need to be authentic, and you need to be open about your progress and where you're making positive change and where stuff isn't working. Because if you have that, you're building up trust, then people are more likely to come up with those ideas and the innovations that you were talking about earlier, Ben. And then the whole thing is moving in the right direction. I think sometimes, he was talking from a conveyor kind of point of view there, but I think in the London market, I think we get a little bit bogged down with trying to have messaging that is so perfect and neat, and we're on this path and we're ticking all the boxes, where in reality we all know that's not the real world. It's it's full of problems that need to be solved and sorted out, and there are always bumps in the road. So I think it makes some good points there.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I think it was interesting. I think it reflected actually what Andrew Horton from QBE was saying as well at one of the panels and the conference, Insurtech Insights, was that to have communications internally, so you can identify, so all the good people can identify and communicate, so ideas don't get lost or just end up in a silo somewhere. And he was very open about saying that was the problem that he'd seen in QBE, that there were people with brilliant ideas, but they weren't connected to anybody else. And that's, partly the fault of large bureaucracy. So he was trying to do something about that. And I think that he also talked about the idea of, I think, because he is a leader, I suppose, of the leadership supporting failure, in the sense of saying, we have enough capital to take a risk on these ventures and try them out, but please kill them off quickly if they're not working. So be transparent and so on. So a lot of this, and I think a lot of what was being said there and was being said by Horton, is around communication and transparency. And you really touched on an important point about London and Lloyd's in particular. And I have not been shy of being critical of it. And I think it's this kind of top-down communication in which you receive an assertion of what will happen, and this is it, and this is the timeline, and this is it, and then those get missed, and then they don't get. So that doesn't feel transparent. That feels like you're being sort of controlled in some way. And so I think the authenticity argument and the meritocracy argument, I think, which was also in there from Stephen, which is that, listen to the people who've been on the job, doing the job for 25 years. They're important. They're not, they're not just the old lag sitting in the corner. They got something to contribute to this. So I think that's, all of that is absolutely common sense. And that's what we need to get back into a lot of this, because the honest truth is, in London at least, there have been so many failures, I think, because partly of a lack of communication and maybe a bit of overreach. But overreach is, what happens in ambitious transformation. It doesn't always work, but we have to be honest about what we're doing, and we have to scale. I think the scale has to be sensible, and also I think those conversations, the final thing I'd say is they have to accommodate the types of needs and businesses that are in this, and it's hard. Looking ahead, it's hard to see how really London can keep all that together in a globalizing market. There's too many varied interests, and those exist within companies, not just, certainly listening to Andrew Horton. I mean, he's got a big task, as he says, with legacy. He's got a big task with getting innovation to work within QBE.
Yeah.
And the whole impression was he wasn't sitting there thinking, I'm going to now spend more time engaging with Lloyd's and what they're doing on Blueprint or anything like that. I mean, he's got his hands full with his own business, right? So, who knows? I don't know the future, but it feels to me like the market has changed. There is a lot of determination within businesses to compete and be the best they can around technology and transformation.
Yeah.
Whether they can also take on a market role in that is, for me, a question mark, because it conflicts and it's extra work and you're shoving your people out to do things. And if that communication is not very good, they lose faith, right?
Yeah. It's you're right. It's scarce resources and how you deploy them to get the most for the organization, and that came through really strongly. Actually, just reflecting on, as you were speaking, what Andrew had said, and you could sense it on the stage. He was eager, wasn't he? He really wanted to have those innovations from those people with that experience who could tell him. And he was very much talking about, how do I create an environment where people, he was reluctant to use the phrase fail fast, but that, they weren't going to lose their jobs because a project had failed, so long as they could keep, testing, learning, moving forward, and hopefully creating an environment where they can spot when things are going wrong and change direction and make it work the second time around, right? So I just think that very prescribed kind of top down, I don't know, it just doesn't work in as effectively as kind of more collaborative, open, trust approaches to change and transform.
I agree. So we've talked a lot really about communication, people today, but if you talk about businesses that we work with, big businesses, and we meet these people all the time, and we don't meet them in a Lloyd's context, we don't meet them in that quasi-regulatory context, we meet them in a competitive, how can we be better context, and they are all struggling with, how do we get people on board, how do we engage people, how do we get people to buy into what are sometimes frightening ideas of change and transformation. That is a very, very big task for these organizations, and arguably culturally, communications wise, they're not the best in the world at that, and they know that. It's not like we're not all agreeing on this stuff. We've got to get better at it. But it seems to me that, again, we've got a kind of outside in from there, both the big technology companies, who I think getting better at this, have to have a conversation that aligns with what these companies want to do. And I think that's the same is true of Lloyd's. And I think it's probably also true of the regulator. But you've got to get this market to work as a sort of value chain that delivers to the customer. So you can't, we really sort of can't go on creating friction. You've got to have, I've argued very strongly that competition, I think, open competition, and we're seeing more of that sort of in the trading platforms in London, like with Whitespace now. That seems to be opening up, thank the Lord. But I think pretend competition in a controlled environment doesn't work. I think proper competition where people say, right, well, let's get on with it, and we're in a race and we're in a competition, is much, much better ultimately, because it plays to people's business instincts.
Yeah.
Not to their bureaucratic or their planning instincts, which most people don't have, right?
Yeah.
You talk to those people, but I tend to not talk to those people. I talk to people who just do a job. And the last thing they want to do is planning and transformation, because it doesn't interest them. But they do want to see things getting better and their jobs easier and less bureaucracy and admin and drudge in those jobs. They know that.
Good. Okay. Nice. So thanks, Stephen, for kicking off that part of the webinar. I've got a few more clips, Ben, that I'll bring along over the coming weeks, because it was a good session. And I'll actually put the whole thing on LinkedIn so people can watch it as well. So post that as well. Okay, good. Right, let's go on to the main feast, the main item, Ben. Retro snacks. We literally came up with this, months ago. Well,
it's planned. It's a social media campaign that's been kicked off. It's one of our more intricate and meticulously planned campaigns, isn't it?
Yeah. What time did we decide to do it? It was
there's always an idea, isn't it? There's always a kernel of an idea that starts something off, a little light bulb moment. So my light bulb moment was when I got a prawn, the extra special prawn sandwich, which I'd highly recommend from Marks and Spencer's on Waterloo Station. And I went to find some crisps, some snacks to go with it, salted variety snacks to go with it. And picked up these packet of chiplets, which I quite quickly realized were really the old chipsticks, which I'd completely forgotten. So I had a bit of a nostalgic kind of moment and a pang of back to the however long ago it was, 15, 20, 30, even back to almost my childhood, about these what were chipsticks. So these are the M&S version. Very good, I might add, actually. Very good. Chiplets. And all sorts of, it's funny how you remember all sorts of little things, because before I opened this bag, I thought, well, these are nice, but they leave a kind of residue on your fingers that you need a fairly decent wet cloth to get off.
Yeah.
And I was so, the whole kind of, it all flooded back, all the thought processes about these chiplets. And then I kind of looked up and found that they were still around. So Smiths made them, and but they had actually had a bit of a backlash against a ready salted version of this that had been gone. So anyway, that was the germ of a kind of thing. And I put something on LinkedIn, and some people responded. So and you and I got talking then about retro snacks. So we're going to go retro snacks, and then we might go retro sweets, and we might go. But the great thing is that Gen Z can't be involved in this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. There are loads to go at.
Yeah, right in now, kids. Okay, so we're starting. Now you won't remember these.
I won't remember these. By the way, I keep forgetting, but you can, if you're watching live, if you comment on LinkedIn, we can see your comments. They flash up. So do tell us your retro snack of choice.
Yeah, don't be shy. We meet so many people who watch this show. We don't even think
we don't think anybody watches it.
Yeah. So anyway, these are jamboree bags. Now, certain people of a certain age, i.e. my age, will remember these. These were so exciting, because each of these jamboree bags contained a different combination of, as they say, novelty and sweets. And obviously it's from a kind of scouting type of heritage, jamboree bags. Now, these are not salted snacks. This is a bit of a teaser of retro sweets. We can't go back beyond the 1970s in this, because it's just going to go into, we'll get into the war then, and we're not doing. Yeah. This is what people ate post rationing, basically, or a little way after post rationing.
Yeah.
So jamboree bags used to get me very excited.
What was can you just explain, because I have never seen these before, what was the novelty?
I can't remember. I think there were little toys and things, like you'd get in cornflakes and things. You didn't really bother about the cereal. You didn't care about that. You just wanted the toy that was at the bottom of the cereal. Yeah. So this was the hook. And then the sweets. But the key was that you never knew you were going to get in there. There was a different combination every time.
Yeah, could be a Woodbine.
Yeah, it could be that back in the day. But yeah, 4 pence. But these were. Yeah, I don't know how long these were around for. I'll have to look it up. But that's a great idea. We could bring that back.
Yeah,
do it at your conferences. Give them a jamboree bag.
Yeah.
So here we go. A golden one, the Kung Fuis I found, because we had a few suggestions. Obviously, they were on that LinkedIn, even though they're a bit older. I don't think they go back as far as Kung Fui. Bacon and mushroom flavour corn potato snack. Well, bacon and mushroom. What's going on there?
No idea. And then we get into the.
Well, knickknacks was mentioned on the LinkedIn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There are lots of these now, and I think these are quite a recent development, really.
Yeah.
But we'll put them in.
I also got knickknacks.
Yeah. So
I was looking for them.
Scampi's a good road to go down for.
It is Scampi fries. They're there as well. What else we got here? Outer Spaces. God, yeah, you're right.
Do you remember them?
Yeah, just about. Yeah.
Outer Spaces had an absolutely mouth-numbing flavour of chemicals, combo of chemicals on them, that was like the most incredible vinegar sensation, like you'd had a big teaspoonful of vinegar poured into your mouth. They call it chutney. I'm not sure there was much chutney in there.
No.
I kind of remember these. That but when you're a kid, these are the sort of flavors you want. You don't want
subtle.
The subtle flavor of the spring asparagus with a light French butter on it. Do you? At that age, you want chemicals.
Definitely.
No, I think this is Kevin Keegan. Yes, it is. Yes, precursor to Gary Lineker doing Walkers. Superstars obviously was a show at the time in the 70s that Keegan was quite good at, and these were kind of the original crisps. Really, really boring and dull in some ways, but footballer associations obviously have carried on to this very day with Lineker.
Yeah,
Bolton Lineker.
Indeed. I went Monster Munch. That's kind of takes me back. And these as well. I don't know if you remember these.
I did. I wanted to go for these. These were good.
They were literally you might just be able to make them out there, but little fishes and supposed to be chips.
Little fishes and chips, and they did taste like fish and chips in a way, didn't they?
They did.
And that's so clever, isn't it? That it's like a newspaper.
Yeah.
So you could wrap them in, but there's so many cultural cues. In that snack, but they were good. They were good. Oh God, I want some now.
Oh no, I'm starving. Right, so there we are. So you can send us your retro snacks on a postcard or whatever method you want to get in touch with us. And we're going to put together what are we going to do? Like a chart?
We're doing a poll, aren't we? We're doing a poll.
Yeah, and we'll rank them.
And it's no Gen Z. It's for older folks. We might then, but we'll move it forward. And there are some. Next time we might do more, depending on what response we get, which would likely be nil. And then so we'll think of something else that will get nil response and do that, and that will be chocolates and it's sweets. Obviously, there are some more obvious ones in that space. I'm surprised actually at how much you could look at in this retro snacks area, because when I started to look on the internet, God, I thought there's so many things I've forgotten. I mean, I kind of knew that being my age. There's more that I've forgotten than I currently know, but definitely in the snacks region, there's been something going on in whichever part of my brain records the salty snack. Probably quite close to drinking alcohol or wine.
Yeah.
With my front limbic.
Right. So send in your suggestions and we will do the rest. Okay. So let's wrap things up. Ben, do anything this weekend?
Bit of climbing.
Bit of climbing.
Bit of exercise. Yeah, that's it really. Not much else. Quiet weekend. It's been a busy week, isn't it, for us?
It has been a very busy week for us. Not used to all this walking around and meeting people in a nightclub type environment. But it was good. Yeah, I'll be, it's bike season soon, isn't it? It's getting warmer and a bit drier. So get the old bike out.
Are you going to do that? I'm going to do that maybe in a few weeks. I've got to warm up to that though, because I haven't really done it and I feel like it's going to be awful.
Yeah. There we are.
We'll do it together and we'll monitor. Should we show our Stravas on here?
No. That would just be embarrassing. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a nice weekend and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.